HBCUs allow students access to resources and opportunities that might not have been available due to racial discrimination and segregation at other institutions. Segregation in schools still exists at an alarming rate, though it might not look how it used to. Public schools are often divided between whites and minorities due to differing neighborhood demographics. Predominantly white schools are often developed in upper or middle class areas. Predominantly Black and Hispanic schools often show up in lower class areas. This leaves Black students with a dilemma. The schools they go to are usually less resourced, less supported by the community, and more influenced by impoverished neighborhoods. A study by Reardon shows that the wealth gap is about 40% larger now than it was 30 years ago. What does this mean for minority schools in low socioeconomic neighborhoods? It means that not only are the schools under-resourced, but the students themselves may be experiencing poverty at a higher rate than white children in other schools. Individual schools also feel the impact of segregation through tracking practices. Tracking is when a student is determined early on to be a smart kid, a difficult kid, or even a stupid kid. This process disproportionately affects minority students, especially those who are Black. Goldman realized in 1971 that aptitude tests directly affected teachers' perceptions of students. This can directly hurt Black students, especially due to what we call a stereotype threat. This term explains when a person fears they will confirm a stereotype, leading them to perform less successfully than they usually would. This issue has continuously appeared in research of Black student performance on standardized testing. On top of that, we know from many research studies that racial bias still exists in schools. Black students are shown to be more harshly disciplined than their white peers. This discipline gap directly affects the racial achievement gap, with racial achievement increasing by 17% when the discipline disparities increase by 10%. Black students are also continuously reporting that they feel their teachers, administrators, and counselors view them differently than their white peers. So how can HBCUs help this problem? In 1900, about 2,600 African Americans had any post-secondary education, like this graduating class of Howard Law School pictured here. In 2010, approximately 33,000 bachelor degrees were earned at HBCUs alone. At that time, an estimated 4.6 million African Americans had college degrees. That is a huge increase. These schools show a direct effect on Black educational attainment. HBCUs have not only continued to push for academic success, but the preservation and reproduction of cultural values, racial identities, and empowerment in social issues. As opposed to predominantly white institutions, HBCUs strive to provide students with relatable role models and strong social connections to faculty and peers. This may be the most important factor that leads to success in HBCUs. The lessening of discrimination possibilities allows students to explore their academic futures without risk of missing out because of their race. It also removes the stereotype threat from the equation. If Black students are being taught by Black teachers, they will be less likely to expect that racial stereotypes will affect how they're viewed or how they're graded. These schools also provide resources to students that they may not have had access to in their high schools. In short, HBCUs let students pursue an education without the difficulties realized in predominantly white institutions. These schools are truly impactful in allowing Black students to thrive in a rich academic environment.
There are a number of reasons why you should attend historically Black colleges and universities that are not just related to getting your education. These schools are enriched with history and African American culture. As a student, you have the opportunity to learn surrounded by peers with similar experiences to your own and unique ones that you can learn from. This can make you feel more at home and welcomed on campus. You'll be able to learn and explore in a loving environment. Having an environment like this can be so welcoming, as it's more than just an institution. It is a family. It is a safe place for you to learn, grow, and empower one another. In fact, many students report to feel more supported in comparison to those who decide to go to primary white institutions. As this image shows, a poll taken by Gallup Purdue in 2014 through 2015, there is a higher percentage of graduates from HBCUs that feel to be thriving in each of these well-being categories in comparison to those who graduate from these primary white institutions. But not only do most students feel that they are thriving, but research has shown that HBCUs have outperformed non-HBCUs. As this image shows, a poll taken by Gallup Purdue in 2014 through 2015, there's a higher percentage of students from historically Black colleges and universities that feel to be that they're thriving in each of these well-being categories, compared to those who decide to go to primary white institutions. Only do most students feel that they are thriving, but research has shown that HBCUs have outperformed non-HBCUs in graduating Black students, taking into account their social-economic statuses. Historically Black colleges and universities do not just focus on your education within their campus. They also have been working hard to help students like you prepare for their future outside of school. Getting yourself help for the future you plan outside of school is very important. You see, unfortunately, because of the current state of employment, over 50% of college graduates are unemployed or are in careers that aren't related to their degree. The best thing for you to do is have a career plan and prep yourself for the next step you take outside of school. Thankfully, HBCUs have many programs and events to help their students. Many HBCUs have campus job fairs and interviews with prospective employers, giving you an opportunity to start your career even before graduating. They also have opportunities to participate in their career workshops, career counseling, and you can receive one-on-one interviews along with one-on-one help with your resume writing. Each one of these are filled with a network of well-educated professionals and informal mentors that are ready to support your future. Historically Black institutions have always been extremely underfunded compared to primary white institutions. There are a number of reasons why related to federal policy implications. One example is the unfortunate change in the federal Parent Plus loans that are costing HBCUs millions, as now many of their students aren't qualifying. This is unfortunate as they serve a large number of low-income students. Along with changes in policies, HBCUs are also having trouble competing for research dollars despite contributing large amounts. So what can be done? How can we help? One simple thing that we can do to help is fundraisers. There's a growing African American middle class that are often eager to help support their community. The best thing you can do for HBCUs is have a high-functioning fundraiser that can get more alumni contributions and donations.
Representation is something that not everyone has in their lifetime. Growing up as a white individual, I personally never had to worry about representation. In every movie, TV show, magazine, and even every comic book convention that I went to, I saw characters that looked like me no matter what. I also saw representation within all of my classes. My teachers looked like me, and my peers looked like me. In our school system, the representation of minority individuals is lacking. For minority students, it is more common for them to be placed in a classroom with a white teacher than a teacher of color. Less than 20% of teachers in the public school system are teachers of racial or ethnic minorities, even though there is a growing number of percentage of Black and Hispanic individuals and students in the United States. This underrepresentation in classrooms can lead to a lack of drive for learning and education, since they can feel a disconnect from both their teachers and their peers. This can also lead to a difference in treatment of both teachers and students of color. In the popular Netflix show called Raising Dion, Dion is an 8-year-old boy who is placed into a new school. In this new school, Dion is one of few minority students, and this is where he had his first encounter with racism, since the principal has assumed he was a bad student solely based on the color of his skin. This assumption of character based on the color of their skin and an underrepresentation within their teachers can drive some Black students to underperform and even see school as a negative experience. Kaut said that this can not only lead students to be teased by their peers for being different, but it can also lead teachers to perceive them as uninterested or as poor students. Honey Morgan also said that not having a teacher of color can reduce minority students' opportunities to be placed in gifted classes. This underrepresentation can also affect their drive for further education in college for years to come. Historically Black colleges and universities, on the other hand, can give students not only the representation that they have been lacking, but can also give them a connection with their fellow peers and professors through cultural connections. Having this representation can push students to do their best because professors and teachers will not be looking at them as the Black student or the trouble student anymore. They'll just see a student, someone who wants to learn and educate themselves, and that their drive and understanding is not dictated by the color of their skin. Having a teacher who finally sees them as a student can push them to ask more questions and have more confidence in themselves as they learn. Proper representation and respect in the schools can not only drive students to achieve career goals, as their professors and peers show support, but that they can achieve anything, no matter their background or the color of their skin.